So this is interesting. I got sent this by a subscriber. Thank you very much, by the way. Appreciate it very much. And it tells you how much snow, here we go, there was on each day in November. So as you can see on the 2nd, 2.5 inches. I'm just going from the beginning, not because I was wondering about whether it snowed before that date, but just may as well go from the beginning to just show the, I don't know. I just feel like I want to. Okay, just let me. Okay, the 4th, November the 4th, 2.2, and November the 7th, 2.5, and then we got 0 until the 23rd of November. Mine said the 25th. It's weird how they say a different thing, but this only 1.3 inch, which is pretty much less than most of the rest of the snowy days. And then we haven't got significant snow until the 28th and the 30th. Okay, right, so I'll show you what's interesting, because I've got reports from news reports from the 14th, the 15th and the 16th. I think you'd be hard pushed to get one from the 13th, which is interesting, isn't it? But let's have a look, because, you know, they're usually straight down there, but don't think you find anything. But I will show you the 14th, 15th and 16th, okay, in case you're interested. If you're not interested, that's okay. Go on your merry way. You do not have to watch this. I will not hold it against you in any way. Okay, so due to fair use, I will have to interrupt occasionally through these videos. And you know me, I like to interrupt anyway. So, okay, so this is from the 14th.
Are tracking breaking news. Just a moment ago, Moscow police confirmed 4 people were found dead in a home just steps away from the University of.
And by the way, this is a Spokane news channel. I was looking at a Boise one, and they said Spokane had beat them to it. The Boise one's interesting though, and just because of stuff that he says. And so I thought, let's find Spokane's news.
Idaho campus. Right now, we're continuing to work to get more details tonight. We know that students were ordered to shelter in place for a time this afternoon because of the scene's proximity to campus. That order has been lifted. KREM 2 crews traveled down to Moscow as reports came in earlier today. We go now to Janelle Finch, and she was one of the first reporters on scene to talk with police and with neighbors in the area. Janelle.
Carry on, let's have Janelle. Hold on.
Been here in
there we go. Right, well, from what we can see, where's the snow? There's no snow. This is day the 14th, day after. I know we're not by the house. We're on King Road, corner of King Road, Queen Road here, I'd say, aren't we? Or are we? Oh, where are we? I'm trying to get bearings here. That house. Oh, yeah, I've got it. She's on King Road, and that's the turning up to Queen Road. Okay, so we can't see much grass or anything, but there's nothing on the roads. There's nothing to show that there's been any sign of snow. There's no slush left. So
Moscow on scene since about 3 p.m. Since I've been here, I've watched Moscow police cars come in and out of this neighborhood, where officials found 4 people dead. Neighbors say they began noticing police cars flood the area around 12 p.m. today. Moscow police.
I'm just going to say, the weird thing is that there's snow, appears to be, on the grass around where the house is, not on the pavement, but there's like, you know, like it would melt off the pavement, wouldn't it? Unless it was really deep, or not really deep, but, you know, unless there was significant. So clearly there was next to nothing. But then they show you the hillside somewhere else on the same day, and there's none. It's really, really odd.
Say they responded to a call here on King Road for an unconscious individual. Upon further investigation, officials found 4 people dead. While police investigated the scene, the University of Idaho enacted a shelter-in-place alert as
So there we go, yeah. So you can see, unless they've chucked a load of white stuff all over the place, there's kind of like, I mean, it's kind of weird, actually.
University officials reported a homicide near campus. As we've stated, that alert is lifted at this time. Neighbors say most people living in this area are a part of U of I Greek life or are students.
Oh, look at that. Where's, that's the same day. Where's the snow up there? That's even higher up. There's none on that grass. So why is there by that house? This is very strange, I think. Nothing on the roofs, there's nothing on the hill there.
The identities of those involved or who lives at the residence, officials are investigating. This is a very much developing situation, and we will continue to stay on the ground.
I mean, that just does not look like a day where it snowed, does it, where she stood there at all.
Until we have more information to report back to you. Until then, in Moscow, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
Thank you so much, Janelle. And KREM 2 will...
Okay, right, we'll go on to the 15th. I'm really going to plug this person's channel because I absolutely love Hot Ham. She is ace. I love her. She's great. But she doesn't have that much coverage of the Idaho 4 case. But this video is really good because it's looking back on the first news reports, and she's really interested in the way, she said, in her words, the way the media has twisted the narrative or has controlled the narrative. And so this, I'll put this into the description. So it's 2 hours, nearly 3 hours long. So it's all news reports and her commentary on it. So this is interesting what people say, because the newscaster, not this guy, the one who's on scene, he actually grew up in the area and has friends. He said, now don't quote me, but I think what he said was that his friend is friends with an older sister of one of the deceased. Well, it could be Kaylee or Jasmine, couldn't it? I think it's probably more likely Maddie, as far as we know, hasn't got any siblings, has she? Or has she? Kaylee's sister lives in California, I think. Although she may have known her from previously, I suppose. So either Kaylee's sister or Jasmine, Sana's sister. Okay, so let's have a listen.
There's an element of this story that has been stoking frustration, both up in the small college town and down in the Treasure Valley, with families who have kids going to the school at the University of Idaho. The biggest component has been a lack of information coming from investigators. And here's what we do know. Just before noon on Sunday, Moscow police got a phone call, a report of an unconscious person in a house off King Road. When they got there, they found 4 U of I students dead, killed, they believe, with a knife or some sort of edged weapon. We know the FBI is now involved. We know no weapon has been found and nobody has been arrested. Nobody is in custody, yet the city and the police...
I'm also going to pause it a few times because I'm hot ham and you know how I am. I have to absorb things. And also because of fair use. If this annoys anyone, you can always go to KTVB and find these videos yourself. They are still on their website, or on their YouTube, I'm sorry. I just collected them and put them in chronological order, and due to fair use, I do have to comment on.
I absolutely love her moon. It's brilliant. I think if I do a live, I'd like to be a moon or something similar, but I have no idea how I would do that, but I love it.
Them a little bit. So there.
Police have said there also wasn't any threat to the Moscow community, believing this to be an isolated, targeted attack. It's that last part that has a lot of people confused and questioning how this is possible.
Just keep an eye on Hot Ham's lips as well, the moon's lips, because she licks her lips at one point. Oh my God. It's funny.
Apparently someone walking around willing and able to use a knife to kill 4 people, but that threat ends inside that house. The university president has told students and staff if they need to go home, they can. Their absence from class would be excused a week before Thanksgiving break. And that may have put a damper on some fears, but it hasn't helped answer.
It's interesting what he says there, and you might have missed it because of me going on about her lips. So
there.
Police have said there also wasn't any threat to the Moscow community, believing this to be an isolated, targeted attack. It's that last part that has a lot of people confused and questioning how this is possible. There's apparently someone walking around willing and able to use a knife to kill 4 people, but that threat ends inside that house. The university president has told students and staff if they need to go home, they can. Their absence from class would be excused a week before Thanksgiving break. And that may have put a damper on some fears, but it hasn't helped answer many of the questions or with the frustration in trying to find them. Andrew Bartline is live in Moscow right now. And Andrew, we just wanted to talk to you today about the mood. You've been up there since yesterday, the mood in Moscow, and that can't be easy, seeing as so many took the president.
So as you can see, there's nothing on the ground that you can see at the moment, but you will see the sort of hillside type bit. I don't know what you'd call it, almost going up to the backyard in a moment. But, you know, there's nothing on. And for that guy, who I might put his clip on the end, actually, so you can hear when he says that he found the weapon. And I'm sure he talked about snow.
Up on his offer of leaving town.
Yeah, and that was the first thing we saw when we pulled in. We were kind of late to the game because a lot of the stations up here covering this are in Spokane. We had a long drive to get here, and by the time we got here, people mostly had left. We did talk to a woman as she was getting out of her house, packing her car. She lives right next door. She said she was the last of her 6 roommates to leave town. She's driving one of her roommates to the airport, and then she's driving back home to Homedale, Idaho. So a lot of people in this neighborhood are gone. Campus is quiet, and we talked to students who are still here. They say that academically they feel they need to be here for their own reasons, but a lot of them said that they don't understand how.
Been stoking
Sorry, I'd already why do words escape me when I start speaking to you guys? Guys, why do you do this to me? I'd already zoomed in, and then I re-zoomed in and tried to zoom out, and yeah, that happened. Now I don't know where we were. Sorry.
Face to face, they say the captain's not there, who's sort of in charge of being the public information officer for this investigation. So we come to the scene and ask the people on scene, is the captain here? They say the captain's not here. And it's difficult to get a hold of him through phone call because if he's not in the office, when we're at the police department, we're certainly not answering his phone there either. There was a moment earlier today where that captain went through and called back a lot of media members and answered some questions, but a lot of the details still weren't sorted out. Really all we got confirmed from that phone call was they are looking for a suspect, and it kind of started and stopped there. There wasn't a whole lot more other than that. I guess we do now know that the unconscious person that they originally responded to is among those 4 that are dead. We did get that confirmed as well, but
that's interesting, isn't it? I'll just play that again, what he says there.
because if he's not in the office, when we're at the police department, we're certainly not answering his phone there either. There was a moment earlier today where that captain went through and called back a lot of media members and answered some questions, but a lot of the details still weren't sorted out. Really all we got confirmed from that phone call was they are looking.
So just after this, what he says about the unconscious person.
For a suspect, and it kind of started and stopped there. There wasn't a whole lot more other than that. I guess we do now know that the unconscious person that they originally responded to is among those 4 that are dead. We did get that confirmed as well, but that's kind of been it outside the press releases. It's been very hard to get.
Because there's been this weird people saying that it was Bethany had fainted, or that saying that it's an unconscious person is part of their protocol. But would they even really particularly have protocol for it? Because they don't have any homicides. I wouldn't have thought that I know I've heard people say that it would be used for a heart attack and things like that, but wouldn't go onto police logs, would it? If it was something like a heart attack, isn't that a separate log for sort of the ambulance service? I don't know. I would be surprised because from what I've seen of the police logs, there's hardly any medical emergencies, so the medical emergencies must be a completely different log.
Information.
And I understand they have a job to do. We want to let them do it. But again, we feel like there's some information that we could share with the public to let them know, kind of clarify some of these, as you said, these data.
Also, I just wanted to check out those cars in the background. So this is the 15th. So it's basically like 2 days, not even 2 days after the murders. So I see there's a Civic behind this reporter. I believe, as far as I know, I think there's Arizona plates on that. So I think that's Xana's. I think it's a Civic. Then there's the Range Rover behind him that was Kaylee's. And I think next to that is the white, I think it's a Ford Focus or a Chevy. It's a little white vehicle, compact car that I believe belongs to Maggie Mogan.
It's a car that looks exactly like a Hyundai Elantra, if you ask me. Like, I just, so many times I've thought, was it Maddie's car that was driving around? Had somebody stolen her car? And weirdly, I went to have reflexology the other day. I'm actually a trained reflexologist, don't you know? But it gave me a bad back, so I gave it up. But I went to have reflexology, and my reflexologist just lives like a street away from me. And she had her car. This is the quietest area, like total suburbia. But I do think it's a bit isolated. Well, where I live is actually, because there's just hills and stuff over the other side. But she's within the sort of housing estate. And she had a car stolen, and they actually found her car. No, she found it. She saw it, contacted the police, and it got stolen. It got stolen twice or something. I can't really remember exactly how it got stolen twice, but that's bizarre. But no, they returned it and stole it again or something like that. How crazy. Or abandoned it and then stole it again. So I don't know, because for all we know, that car could have been abandoned and then put back there so that people didn't know, because they're trying to keep the investigation close to their chest, but then to their vest, even their chests or their vests or their breasts. There aren't any women in Moscow police. There is one, but we've not seen her on any body cam. I feel like it's such a boys' club. But yeah, that's probably just a wild idea of mine. But it just has struck me so many times how much a white Elantra looks like Maddie's car.
Data points that don't kind of line up. And I know this next question I have for you, Andrew, is a difficult one.
Howdy, Lady Lisa. Welcome.
You went to school not very far from there. You've spoken with some of the friends of some of these people, or at least some people who were very connected to this. This has got to be one of the most difficult things for them and for this community.
Yeah, you said it. I went to school here. I grew up here. I mean, my whole life has been between Spokane, Sandpoint, Moscow, Pullman.
Yeah, Maddie's car is a Chevy,
you talk
it looks
to the people
like.
that knew them or went to school with them. You know, I went to college with an older sister of one of them. And I'm talking to my friends from school who were very close with the older sister. And it's tough, Brian. It's tough. And a lot of these people are really struggling to make sense of it. I got a phone call from a friend who lives in Dallas.
Sorry to interrupt him, but college of an older sister, that's what he said, wasn't it? So he went to college with an older sister of one of them. And he just seemed choked up.
Dallas, Texas. They left Pullman, Moscow area 3 years ago. And they're tearing up, and they don't know what's happening. They're concerned, and they're asking me what's going on, and I would like to tell them. But it's tough to get that information. And again, law enforcement has a job too. We totally understand that. But the vibe around here is weird, Brian. It's weird. You walk around campus, there aren't people around. It's quiet. The few people that will talk to us, they're kind of fidgety. They're a little concerned. I said, like, they don't feel comfortable here trying to understand how these data points connect. There's no suspect in custody, but you're supposed to feel safe. Well, they don't feel safe. And it's the only thing I can compare it to was the Tyler Helinski situation at Washington State that I experienced as a student. It is very similar to that. It is very, very odd. The difference is that there's no ongoing threat in that situation. Was the Tyler Helinski situation at Washington State that I experienced.
Tyler
as a student.
Helinski.
It is very similar to that. It is very, very odd. The difference.
I looked up Tyler Helinski. Apparently it was a suicide, but I think there might have been some questioning of whether it was suicide.
There's no ongoing threat in that situation, but the way people are acting, the way people are talking, it's
Tyler Helinski.
It's the only other thing I could possibly compare this to from my experience.
All right, Andrew, thank you very much for what you're doing up there today and for tomorrow and what you have been doing up there. And I understand maybe we can get some more information, understand kind of how this plays out going forward. But again, thank you very, very much. And we'll keep checking in with you should things get updated or anything come through.
That made me laugh that he didn't move when that car beeped, or that the car didn't wait. Maybe they'd been waiting for a while. Why didn't he just step forwards or backwards at the... He didn't even flinch, did he? Amazes me when people are like that, just so... don't know. I don't know what the word is. Right, so now we'll have a look, just for the hell of it, to complete the treble, we'll look at the 16th. Okay, we are on the 16th now.
On Sunday, police got a call for an unconscious person. When they showed up, they found the 4 bodies of University of Idaho students. Again, police now say they think, quote, an edged weapon like a knife was used in the killing. They did not find a weapon at the scene, and they do not have a suspect. That evening, officers called.
So there's nothing even frosty looking there on the 16th, on those bushes. Nothing slightly even frosty.
Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabbitt to the house. She says in her 16 years as crime scene.
Well, there was a lot.
But yeah, we have that hillside with the snow on it. It's like somebody's gone and scattered some. There's even some on the roof. It's like somebody's gone and scattered some snow over that area. I don't know what to think about this whole thing. I find it just bizarre. I find it so absolutely bizarre. Like it's a film set or something. It's really weird. I think this is the only bit that you can actually see the any sort of grass area.
Well, there was a lot of blood. It was,
Mabbitt says Latah County.
Oh yeah, you can see that. So this is the 16th, and is that the grass? Is that grass area there? I can't even tell what it is. Is it even snow? Is it some other substance that's been like scattered around? I mean, God, imagine there was loads of blood and they had to put stuff on top of it. I don't know. That couldn't be that much, could it? But I'm really confused because it doesn't seem to be any white anywhere else apart from around this house. Is there a bit on the roof of that house there in the corner? I don't know if that is snow or if that's something else. I'm the snow police, aren't I?
He is contracting out the body's autopsies. Once Spokane County completes those autopsies, we should have more information on the official manner and cause of death. She's also waiting on toxicology reports.
Yeah, there's no snow on that tree top there. Yeah, where's the snow? Where's your damn snow? I don't know. Find it all very weird, but let me find that clip of the guy who says he found the glove.
So the next part here is I just happened to be on the public sidewalk there. You can see just to the left of that tape. And I was walking around. I looked down and, you can see the snow just barely covering what appeared to be a black object. And I thought, interesting. And so I walked around the trash can there, and lo and behold, it appeared to be a glove. And the great thing about the internet now is people have got me planting the glove there, with my wife, standing right next to me, as if as if I got time for that, right, in life. But welcome to the to the blood sport called the internet. That said, anyway, I look down, I see this glove. I immediately notified the authorities, who came over and collected it. And, and we don't know its involvement in any way, shape, or form. I mean, it could be post-incident. It could be pre-incident. I mean, we don't know. But I thought it was significant just to kind of point it out and grab it, i.e. the PD. And they did. They collected it, to their credit. Again, and I think people forget they still control this crime scene. So it does go properly into evidence, but I thought it was interesting that it was sitting there. And, I picked it up in terms of visually, not physically. If you say anything, you're wrong. So it is what it is. But anyway, that said, there it is right there. You get a better look at it. So one of the other things that I think is really interesting here is in the front of this house, there is a path that goes straight down, and you'll see other cinder blocks there. There are 3, double type cinder blocks to the left there. It's not the same one in the back of the house. That's the one I was talking about. I didn't find any of these others like this, other than one other on an apartment behind me. So I thought that one cinder block, a single, it just did not look right. It was just sitting there underneath that window. And I thought, wow, is this a voyeurism situation? I've heard, it's a barbecue situation. People use them for benches, put their burgers on them and stuff. Well, yeah, okay, I guess that could be a possibility too, but voyeurism can also be a possibility. So, don't discount the barbecue, for the voyeurism, I guess, in my mind, because how many of those offenders have we seen, post-incident, who have done some horrific crimes, and they tell us, yeah, I was staring in her windows for months. I mean, who was the guy did over 500 rapes, and he used to walk away from the pair of boots on the porch. What was his name again? I forget that guy. He's in custody, thank goodness, 400 years. But what used to deter him was a pair of men's boots, a very large pair of boots. So I recommended to my daughter years ago, buy boots and put them on your porch, no matter what.
Make sure they're used.
Yeah, make sure they're used. But that deterred him, didn't it?
Well, in fact, he said that would have deterred him.
Yeah.
That information came to us as a result of interviews that we had done with him. He was a serial rapist, 85 rapes over about 5 years. And after it was all said and done, I asked him the question, well, what would you tell potential victims of from somebody like you, how would they avoid becoming a victim of a sexual assault by somebody like you? Because he said that 85% of the time, I asked him, how did you get inside of these residences? You broke in, forced entry. He said 100% of the time of those 85 rapes, he went in through unlocked doors or unlocked windows.
Yeah.
And I said, so are you telling me you never came across an unlocked door, or rather a locked door or a locked window? He says, oh, no, I came across them. I just went to the next one.
Yeah.
So he never made the effort, didn't have to take.
I find that really interesting because they always say about, targeting, they pick this target, but sometimes they don't. I've either read or listened to something about, and it was an actual serial killer talking about how they wouldn't necessarily go for the target that they really wanted because they would weigh up the risk and they would settle for what would work rather than what they wanted. And maybe, people like who some people end up losing control in the end, like Bundy, but that's down the line, not first job. Unless this guy, if it is, maybe complete outlier, but
The effort.
and as I've said before, I don't know, I've probably said it on a video that I haven't yet put out, but I don't believe that BTK, that family, I don't believe those were his first kills. He was in the military in, I can't remember which country in Southeast Asia. It could have been Korea, it might not have been. It might have been another country. It wasn't Vietnam. I would have remembered that. And he said that he frequented prostitutes. Now, I can imagine, because of what happened with children with him, I can imagine that he hasn't admitted to that because they probably were children and they were probably very young girls or boys, who knows, because I think there were boys that he assaulted as well. I really don't believe that family was his first. Maybe his first in the USA, maybe not. First that he's admitted to. But who knows if there was any more before in the USA. But I think definitely, I do believe that there were when he was overseas. And they always say that when they were in the military, they didn't. And I think that's something to do with the fact that they think there'll be more trouble, or it's to do with keeping, it's like the thin blue line, keeping all that quiet. What happens overseas, what goes on tour stays on tour. It didn't count, it didn't happen in another country. Let's just forget about that. Let's not mention it. I think the same with Israel Keys, but this is just my opinion. Anyway, at some point he talks further about the glove, and they speculate on about snow, it being covered with snow. But I'm going to put the video in the description because it's taken me so long to actually find this clip that I think it's time for me to go to bed, I'm afraid. So I think you'd enjoy the entire video though, because it is very, very interesting. So please watch it and let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments about that video. So ta-ra for now.
Someone who knew these people than by a stranger. What's your take on that? Yeah, I think based on the open source information, it appears that the suspect, the killer, is likely someone who knew the victim or victims, knew the layout of the house, knew how to get entry into the house. There was no indication of forced entry, no indication of rape or an economic incentive, a motive of robbery. He had to be somewhat confident that he could overcome any obstacle in his way. He had a knife. He must have known that these individuals were sleeping. He attacked both the second and third floor, left the first floor with no victims. So it appears, based on the open source information, that he felt confident that he could go into that house and kill the people that he was targeting, and then escape without being caught.
Doing it silently, and how do you know it's a he?
Well, the assumption is that it was a male that was targeting one of the females or multiple females in the home. Again, the use of the weapon, the choice of weapon, the type of crime that was committed is typical of a male. And I would guess that this is probably a young male, someone on campus, maybe still on campus, hiding in plain sight.
So then you have the continuing concern about, was this a one and done, or is this somebody who has a taste for this? Is there anything that you see here that suggests an answer either way?
Well, I think the FBI assisting through VICAP and looking at other cases in and around the area. I think there was a reported case in Oregon about 400 miles away of a couple being killed in their sleep. Those connections will be looked at, but it doesn't appear, at least from the evidence that's been released, that this is a serial killer. Definitely a disorganized crime scene, and you sometimes see that with serial killers. But in this particular case, there's no signature that's been released by the police. Some of that may be intentional in case they do have a list of suspects that they're looking at, and I would understand that. But at the same time, I think that, as I mentioned earlier, the police are working this case from various different angles, and I feel confident that they'll make good progress in this case, both for the safety of the community and certainly justice for the victims and their families.
Quickly, what's your biggest question at this point?
The biggest question now is that timeline that was mentioned. You got to look at the evidence, the forensic evidence. I know there was there were students at the crime scene before the police got there. They got the issues of contaminated evidence, and they've got to look at the video and that they have, and look at the DNA that they can pull, and hopefully they find somebody in that DNA pool that's someone other than the victims that will lead them to the suspect.
As we learn more, I'll come back to you, and so you can help us understand. Andrew Bringle, thank you very much. All the best.